Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of SideKick Power Hour with me, your host, Joshua R. Pangborn. It's been a very long 2 weeks, I think, since I last saw everybody, and I am so excited to be back and so excited to be here with all of you and with my special guest tonight. A lot's been happening in the world of Sidekick Productions, and I'm sure some of you are aware of the fact that the reason we had a 2 week hiatus is because I was off filming a little movie called The Contract. And that happened. So there was so much fun to be had on set. I loved being able to live in a cabin with the cast and crew for 9 days and just really make a movie and sort of shut out the outside world. It was so much fun. And I am beyond excited for you to see what this movie is going to look like because I've seen some of it already and it looks like something we've never made before. It is some of the most amazing performances, special effects, visuals though. The visuals are top notch. I will tell you all about it as we go along. You'll see a lot more going on with it, but thank you all for your patience and your support over the months as we got ready to film The Contract and get us to where we are today. And now we're in post production, and there'll be a long road for that. But as that goes on, you will learn more about it, and I will probably be asking for more help because it takes a village people and not a village people, it takes a village comma people, and it is very vital that we are out there supporting queer art. There's a lot of wonderful queer artists in the world, and I am very lucky to be one of them. So, and I'm very lucky that you are all here to support what we do with Psychic Productions and queer, fat positive, sex positive art and film and television that we make. Also, before I forget, because it is coming up this week, the 13th is the 6 month anniversary of Homophobias, the book that I put out last year, in September. 6 months since this book came out, and it's been such a great time hearing your thoughts and your feedback. Someone just posted this week on Facebook. They were huddled outside with their blanket curled up and reading it. I really enjoy seeing that. So keep telling me what you're doing with the book. Keep telling me when you've read it and enjoy it. And if you want a copy, just let me know. You can direct message me and I can send you a copy that is autographed if you would like to get one of those. Instead of going through Amazon, you can actually get one from me, and it will be with my autograph on it. So, but enough of me talking because you're all here tonight to see our special guest. And one of the reasons that I invited tonight's special guest on is for in particular after this show is because after the hiatus we just had is because they have been so supportive and so incredibly excited for what we are doing with the contract, and I am so grateful for all the support that we got from them. But I'll let them talk to you about it more than me, because that's why you're here to see them. So, without further ado, please welcome the Brisket.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be here on the Power Hour. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
It is my absolute pleasure and joy to have you here tonight. I've been meaning to have you on, and I thought this is like the perfect time to have you on because we just wrapped up a film that I think is very much resonates with a lot of work that you do, and you did a lot of work to support it. So I am so grateful to you again for all that you did. So
Well, it has been my pleasure and will continue to be my pleasure. I obviously, at the foundation supporting queer artists, body positive artists, kink and sex positive artists. We are definitely. It does take a village. It takes a village, and
it's a
and
village, comma people. It does.
exactly. And anytime we can support each other, even if it's just with well wishes and words of encouragement, I think that just lifts us all up that much more. And it is my honor and my pleasure to help and to be a part of your work in any way that I can. So it's been a gift to me.
Well, thank you. Before we go any further, though, why don't you tell people who might not be familiar with you who you are, and tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do.
Sure thing. I'll be glad to. So, some of you may know me by my alter ego, my real identity, Jed Powell. My performer name is the Brisket, which comes from back in the days when Tumblr blogs were a thing, and everybody had to have a cute Tumblr blog name. And I wanted to do something that was kind of fun and kind of me and kind of saucy. And at the time, I was a cook. I was cooking in a restaurant that focused on smoked meats and barbecues and things like that. And so I don't know what inspired it such a long time ago, but my little handle was the Brisket. And underneath that, it said a tough cut of meat that, when prepared properly, becomes soft and tender, a lot like me. And it stayed around, and it really stayed when I was working in another restaurant after I had my Tumblr blog going for a while, was posting my Speedo pictures and my pinups. Everything started very pretty safe for work back in those early days. But
It
I'm
always
bringing
does.
it always does. You got to wade into those waters easily, gently. And I was taking an order out to a customer at the restaurant I was working at, and he turns and he looks at me and he's like, "Hey, you're the Brisket." And I'm like, "Me? What?" And yeah, that World Wide Web is a World Wide Web, and when you post something on there, it just goes. And I knew that, but that was the first time in my life where it had, instead of me putting things out into the computer, out into the internet, it was coming back to me. And so that was a big eye opener for me. And so that name stayed around, and eventually got into Instagram. And when Twitter was the good old days of Twitter, I got
When Twitter
into
was Twitter, so
when it was Twitter, exactly. And just continued to grow into those experiences of being online, being on social media, interacting with people, meeting different people, and creating content that really was just for me, that I was putting out there, that people happen to like. But at the end of the day, even if nobody liked it, it was something that I was really enjoying, which I didn't realize was kind of the beginning of my experiences as an artist, as a creative person, is gaining that confidence and comfort and joy that comes from, I'm going to make something. And at the end of the day, even if it doesn't land with anybody else, as long as it lands with me, it makes me smile, makes me happy, uh, inspires me, keeps me going in life, then that mission is more than accomplished by doing
I think
that.
that's so important too. I talk to people about, because I wrestle with that so many times. When I'm making something, I'm always like, will people like this? Will people enjoy what I'm doing? But at the end of the day, I also have to like the art that I'm creating. And if I'm not, if I don't start with being the one that loves it the most first, then no one else is going to love it either. Like
Yeah.
and that's what I think. And this is a much larger general statement, but I think that's why so many of the movies that we see these days, there's something a little bit hollow about some of them, because it's always design. It's about making a movies by committee these days,
Yeah.
and there's not the same passion that you used to see when you have an auteur kind of director kind of thing going on. But
And I do think that, with all of the different things that I've learned through my personal experiences, as a creative, I do try to remember it's easier said than done, especially when you want to try to take the passion that you have and turn it into something that pays the bills, keeps the lights on, and makes it so that you can continue to fund and create the art that you want to do. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I can say there is nothing like the feeling of when you hit that bullseye 2 times in a row. You love what you created, and then other people love what you created too.
Yes.
And you feel that connection. Because I really do believe it's true that if you're having a good time, if you're proud of what you're doing and you're confident what you're doing, it's going to come through your words. It's going to come through your art, going to come through the
Mhm.
screen, through the camera. That sincerity is going to ring true. And then when that sincerity meets with somebody who sincerely enjoys it, finds pleasure in it, gets the message that you're trying to put out, Oh, that is magic right there. And really, I can say that the art is for me all day long, but there definitely is a part of me that's like, I want it to be for you too. It's okay if it's not, but when it is, boy, is that you hit the bullseye over and over again, and it's a magical feeling.
I totally can relate to that. I think that that is a really beautifully way to put it. It's it's what's missing in the world right now, and we need more people. And I think that's why independent artists is some of the richest and most interesting stuff you see, because it is very much where it's the independent artists that will be doing that and will be able to do that and everything. So
Yeah, and that's what ultimately led me to venturing into actual content creation subscription platforms.
hmm
OnlyFans, just for fans, and there's a number of other ones that are out there. Is it wasn't, hey, I want to charge for this. It was, I want to be able to have the freedom to create what I want to create and just be able to put it out there. And that just happened to be the best venue for it, where people are coming to this particular venue. They know exactly what they're going to be getting, even though a platform like Twitter and now Blue Sky, there is so much freedom. You can do quite a bit there. It's still going out into a bit of a public place.
yeah,
And so there's a cost that can come with that. But when you have a particular platform that is, even if it's not necessarily specifically designed for what you're creating, at least you know that the audience that's out there has an awareness of what they're going to be coming across when they come across your art. That gives me a lot of confidence as a creative person to be able to say, I can push boundaries, or I can lean into what I'm comfortable with and what I know works, and I can create art more freely and without. I mean, and I'm sure many people that might be watching have had that experience where maybe you posted something that was fun and flirty and maybe a little bit edgy to certain platforms, and you're very careful and you're cropping and you're applying stickers or text to be able to stay within those terms of service. That was something that I never had quite the appreciation for until recently. But and then you find that an algorithm or an audience member ends up lodging a complaint or taking your content down, and that just is such a deflating feeling right there. I was like, you know what, I don't want to fight the system is what it is. I'm just going to find outlets for me to be able to have the freedom to do what I want to do, and again, let people know, here's where you can, if you want to see more, here's where you can find it. And it's that was when things really became real for me, when I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do, and I had the opportunity to be able to see, wow, I'm doing something that somebody out there in the world is willing to pay at least 1 month's worth of a subscription fee for. That was that was a very I was very much hooked on that. Again, not necessarily from a financial aspect, but from a, I was able to see a bigger picture of what I was doing, and I was able to
yeah,
see how, you know what, I can. This can be more than just a fun, flirty hobby. This can be
yeah,
something I can lean into. Ultimately, sex work, content creation, the kink community, the larger queer community, being able to work within that space was a dream within me that I didn't even realize that I had. And once I was able to put two and two together, I was like, this is it. Whatever it is I have to do, however long I have to walk this path, this is what I want to do the rest of my life, in front of the camera, behind the camera, within the community, be it locally here in Atlanta, nationwide, worldwide, supporting people to be able to have the freedom, and also demonstrating that myself, to have the courage to push those boundaries and have the freedom to say, this is me, this is the body I live in, this is the sexuality that is just as much a part of me on the inside as it is on the outside, doing things in a form of a human experience that we all get to share in to one degree or another. And instead of saying, you know what, I got to keep tamping this down. I've got to hide it. I've got to mask it. I've got to put it behind walls. I got to shove it into the closet. Be like, you know what, there is a time and a place and a space for everything, and creating that space so that way somebody can say, this is my kink. This is the thing that gives me pleasure. This is the thing that helps me feel alive and gets that adrenaline pumping. And to be able to say, I'm not, I realize I'm not alone. I see myself in these people and these performers, and it's okay. I don't have to shove this down. I can find the appropriate and the healthy venues for me and the outlets to be able to live true to myself. And I'm like, this, if I'm lucky, this will one day be able to be my full-time job, but I've already fallen in love with it so much that as long as it takes, I'm going to continue working on that to make that true for me, and continue to enjoy that fellowship with other people that either are creative or at least are in touch with that human side of sexuality and body positivity, and feeling as free as we can with as few restraints that all too often we put upon ourselves.
That's really lovely. I mean, I always enjoy talking to you because you have such deep thoughts about things that could easily just be seen as a surface topic, but you delve deeper into the meaning, almost a more universal meaning and universal um, perspective on things, and it's really lovely to hear your thoughts on these things.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
and I think you talked about sex work and everything. It's very much the topic right now because of Anora winning the Best Picture in the Oscars.
Mhm.
Um, it was really I was really pleased to see both high profile members of the team who won both shouted out and celebrated sex workers in their speeches because that was, I thought, a really important thing to do because it's such an easy there are so many groups that are easy to demonize right now, and unfortunately in the U.S. And all over the world, but U.S. especially. Sex workers are always an area that gets demonized and looked down upon, and it's very unfortunate to see that. But it's important to celebrate and recognize everyone who does things that bring happiness and joy to people's lives, and you clearly do that for people, and you clearly make people um, happy when with the work that you're putting out there. They wouldn't come back if they weren't happy. So.
Yeah, it's, I, uh, a little behind the scenes with me. I came out late in life. I'm 46 now. I really didn't fully come out until I was 35. There were
Oh
a
wow.
number of starts and stops, number of attempts. There was a lot in my life to reconcile, to be able to get to where, not even to where I am today, but just to get to where, what am I going to do with these revelations about myself? Um, I know that there are a number of people that, from their earliest memories, their sexuality, their gender identity, uh, comfort within themselves is something that they had. Me, I often say that I just happen to be the world's most naive person because there's still aha moments that are happening today for me. But the closet and cultures that create taboo and create what could be very healthy environments for some people can also be very incredibly unhealthy environments for others.
Mhm.
And if those environments work for the individual, then more power to them. That's great. But the moment that those environments, that those communities, that those systems that we live within become something that it is more of a trap, it's a cage, and those walls are closing in, and the clock is ticking, and you can feel that you are running out of time. The light at the end of the tunnel is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Then finding a way to be able to reconcile that becomes not only this is this is a choice I'm making for myself, it really becomes just as urgent as I'm in a house and my house is on fire and I need somebody to come rescue me because I can't get out. It is that dire, even though it might mostly be taking place within the mind, within the heart.
Mhm.
And so I I find so much joy in what I am able to do now. And it's part of why I wear the label of sex worker with so much pride and so much honor, is because every time I film a video, every time I have a chance to appear on a program like this, I get to speak on a panel, I get to give a presentation. Every time somebody says, "Hey, I've been thinking about this, what should I know?" or "What advice would you have?" I think about how far Jed has come. And I think about how afraid I was for so many years, not only of who I was in my sexuality, but just of everything, and the taboos that create a double life, and where you are just constantly doing battle and all of that energy that's not going towards anything productive or
Mhm.
anything healthy. And it's why in my content, it's it's very, very common that as I get towards the end and things are done, there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of smiles, because once upon a time I couldn't be intimate with myself or with another person without there immediately being the weight of shame and guilt, and the collision of who I was and who I am and who do I want to be and what should I be. Now I'm enough time has gone by and enough work has been done, enough experiences have been had to where I can do something I never thought I would add to my resume at this stage of my life, but do it with that sense of pride, to be able to laugh and smile and see it as a personal victory. And that is what I hope for anybody, whether they are just living their lives and they are they're figuring out how to have a better, deeper connection with themselves, or whether they happen to be in a situation where sex work is a matter of survival, or whether they happen to be somebody with, in the beauty of today's day and age of, I can tap into a kink or something that excites and electrifies my life by taking something and putting it behind a paywall, but I get to have this alter ego. I go to work in an office. I interact with a certain aspect of a community, but over here I get to have this other life that is special, that's for me, that is freeing and liberty and liberating, and I put it behind a paywall, and it keeps those things safe, but it makes my life a richer, happier place. And I would hope that for anybody at any stage of the game or wherever they might be in life, that even if they're like, I'm doing this thing because I need the money, because I gotta pay the bill to do the thing that is living life, unfortunately, that they at least get to say, but you know what? I'm going to own this choice. This is what I'm going to do. I call the shots. What I'm doing for myself is I am valid, I am real, and this might be a chapter in my life, or this might be like I want the rest of my life. The rest of my life, I want to do what I do, and I will leave this world happy if I get to do that. But whether it's a chapter of the rest of your life, that a person knows that they are not alone, that they are part of something much bigger themselves, and that, you know what, you can do what you need to do, you can do what you want to do, and you can do it, and without the shame that society might put there. And I do think that, I take a certain sense of hope and joy in the thought that, if not already, we very soon are going to get to the point where there's not going to be an elected official, there's not going to be a school teacher, there's not going to be a healthcare provider or somebody that you run into in your community who hasn't posted that sexy picture online, because the internet has become such a staple and a mainstay of our life. The fact that I am to an age now where I'm meeting people where I'm like, oh my goodness, I just realized I'm old enough to be your father, like really, really be your father. And you're in their entire life has been with the internet and social media. They've been carrying around their own studio in the form of their cell phone in their pocket their entire lives. You know, that
Hmm.
they didn't have to figure out a tricky way to take a naked picture and find a place to get that printed up on
And
like
then scan it on in a
film and
scanner,
scan
and
it.
then
What am I going to do? You know, and so I take a certain bit of comfort in the fact that, like, I really feel that as a society, one of these days, we're all just going to look at each other and say, "Come on, you know, who of us hasn't posted that picture of us in a tight swimsuit or with something more exposed than what we normally see?" And once we realize that we all have that in common, that is my hope that, okay, we're going to calm down a little bit. We're going to relax a little bit more. We're going to cut each other a little bit of slack, and we will all be healthier for it.
apparently Nakia wants me to join in the fun because he
Hi, Nakia.
have you ever met Nakia before?
I have. I've been very fortunate to cross paths with Nakia in the past. Such a dear person. I'm. It's been a
He
long time.
agrees with
So.
you. If you can't laugh during sex, he says he's gonna pass. So he agrees with you. Um, Nakia is a dear friend, and he has he's a very I think he has a lot of similar feelings and thoughts as you do about these topics from conversations I've had with him, and I also echo a lot of what you've been saying as well. I think it's and I think you make a really wonderful point that people just need to start realizing that at this point pretty much everyone has done what you're doing, just with not without sometimes not with a paywall. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how life is at the basically at this point. Um, Queer or not, I think that it's a fairly common, straightforward thing that's part of romancing the stone, all sorts of things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the key
Absolutely.
is really getting to this now. He wants. um well, you have, well, that is a nice segue to, you have talked about making movies and like actually doing movies that incorporate some ideas that are very fun and kinky and all that as well, and very erotic films. I know you've got a couple ideas you've shared with me, which I think
Mhm.
are really fun. So
Well, and I'm very fortunate that when I started out, I've been doing working in adult content for coming up on 3 years now, which blows my mind. It's been such a wonderful journey.
only three
But
years. It feels like so much longer from what you've talked to me about. You have such a well-rounded perspective on it, and you have such a passionate. And now he wants to cast you in Demon Doctor. He's very excited. That would be a fun role. Actually, I could see you very much doing that. If you
oh,
season
I
three.
would jump at the opportunity.
But you have such a well-rounded perspective on the work that you're doing and what it means for you and what it means for people as well. So
Well, I was very lucky that this entered my life at the perfect time. And that is, I really have to give credit to the stars aligning or whatever it might have been, because if at any other point in my life, I would not have been able to do what I'm doing now with the degree of comfort and freedom that I have. It would be a taboo, it would be a secret, and it would be something that I would have to remain very, very hush hush about. And that has allowed me to be able to learn and grow and realize, oh, yes, I'm a pornographer. I love making adult content. I am very confident and safe in that particular arena. But also, I love comedy. I love camp. And I want to take those particular themes and elements and incorporate that into what I do, be it adult or otherwise. And it's allowed me, instead of saying, well, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a real artist, and this is just what I'm doing. I'm slumming it until it becomes a reality. I was fortunate enough to be able to take the approach of saying, I'm learning as I go. I am making film. I am making art. I am an artist. It has cut all of the ties that have held any degree of creativity down throughout my life and helped me realize, oh, there's things that I didn't even realize I was passionate about
Yeah.
post-production. I didn't realize I was passionate about how do I achieve this effect? How do I get from point A to point B? And I didn't even know that was an option on the table. And so that is why I say, I love being in front of the camera, but I'm really learning to love being behind the camera. And I'm learning about the production process and how, when you put that work, I mean, I can only imagine the amount of work, and I've seen such a little bit of it through knowing you, of the productions that you've done. Not only that, but me now having to just really accept that it is a collaborative effort, and finding those kindred spirits and those people that are willing to see a project with you, and they're willing to put their energy and their time and their passion on the line with you to see something become a success. And that takes a lot of humility, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of trust. And that is something that I'm opening myself up to as well, as I continue to meet creatives in all different mediums, to say, wow, you know what, we all have this in common. And to have the courage to say, how would you feel about working with me on this? How would you feel about doing a special project together that is funny, that is campy, that is horror, that moves into these different genres? Working within adult content for me is just like, you know what, starting from that point means that there's less times where I'm going to say, oh no, we can't do that.
Hmm.
We can do that. Whether or not that's going to make it into the final cut, that's another story altogether. But I want to tell that sexy, queer, kinky horror story. I want to do that rom-com that goes there, but it goes there not in an ironic way, but just in a, oh yeah, two people fall in love and they have a meet cute and they have the gay handshake, and this is what they do, and it's just very matter of fact. And I'm excited, so excited for what the future holds for me in this realm, because again, I'm learning so much as I go along as an amateur, as across all the different aspects of it, and realizing, oh, this is a possibility, and I never thought of it before. And it all started with, hey, I'm going to take some pictures of me in a Speedo and post them online, to get to now where it's like, wow, I'm allowing myself to dream bigger, and to think outside of the box and realize there's things that I don't know but others do, and enjoy that collaborative effort. So it's, yeah, I'm very, very excited for what the future holds and the potential that's out there.
There's so much wealth of experiences you can have once you open yourself up to collaborating. I mean, I've told people in my outside offline how beautifully and smoothly this production on the contract went. How it was just one of my favorite times on set, and how I was not nearly as stressed as I usually am on these productions.
That's wonderful.
And a lot of that is because I brought people on that I could trust, that I knew would do jobs um, that I could ask them to do and not have to worry about doing myself. Obviously, I'm in charge of the whole picture and everything like that, but at the same time, um, when you put your trust in other people and bring them on to do those roles, then that is you alleviate a little bit of your own stress, and you start to work together to create a project that everyone's really excited about. And
Yeah,
every day everybody was really just happy to be on set,
yeah,
and you could see it from everybody. You could see everyone was happy and passionate about the work that we were doing and creating together. And I'm learning to do that more and more with other things. I i've i've longed for people in the community to reach out like the way you have, with the promo that you helped do for our Indiegogo campaign. I often feel like people don't always notice what we're doing in the community, and to have someone like you come out and say, "Hey, how can I help make sure that we you raise some money for this project?"
yeah,
That was so valuable and so affirming to me that what I'm doing is connecting with people and creating connections and collaborations, and then I know that you and I are trying to work on something in Atlanta for some old film, well, old films we have. So they're like 2 years old. They're ancient now. They're decrepit old films we have. But I mean, turning to you and trying to, these are things I wouldn't have done in the past, but I've seen other people do. I've learned that I shouldn't be afraid to ask for help, and I think, and that makes it all much more rewarding when we're all doing it together. I think so.
Absolutely. And it's I've had to accept early on that there's nothing in my life that comes naturally for me. There is a learning curve for everything. And once I started to open myself up to that, I realized, okay, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're going to have a lot of false starts, but just keep going and learn from what you're doing. And the the evolution of that life lesson for me has been lean into other people, hit them up, talk,
Mhm.
reaching out to you. I mean, the worst that could have happened was you'd say, thanks, but no thanks. I've got this covered. But because
Well,
of the
no, the worst that could have happened, that could be like, leave me alone, don't talk to me.
right, no, that would be the worst to be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not making a friend today.
I don't want to be your friend. Leave me alone. No,
You can't sit with us. No.
over there. Get away.
But it it taught that's how I learn. I learn by doing, and
Hmm.
then the evolution is learn by reaching out and connecting to people who are doing things that I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But it's taught me about, just a little bit, but the drive to learn more about fundraising, about um, crowdsourcing, and about, again, teaming up with other people, asking for help, for knowledge, for to help, to encourage somebody to have a buy-in with you on doing something bigger. And in order to make this thing really special, it's like, hey, you can be a part of this. I certainly can't do it on my own. And so for me, there's been so much joy that has come from just, even if I could just sit in the corner and watch you, even if I can just observe from afar, I'm already learning so much, and I'm so grateful for that. And I I think when we have that chance to be able to support one another, again, even if it's just with well wishes and kind words all the way through, you know what? I can give you this much. I have this much free energy. I have this much that I can give, but let's do something with it.
Hmm.
Then it is truly my honor, my pleasure, and something that has made my life so much better in such a short period of time. I feel like, I mean, here I am. I wouldn't be here otherwise, and it's a very, very special thing for me.
How just because I'm always curious, how open are you? Because for me, it's I find myself sometimes, depending on the audience, because I describe Sidekick Productions as a queer, fat positive, sex positive production company, but I do find that sometimes I do still police myself, depending on the audience that I'm talking to. If somebody says, "Oh, what kind of movies do you make?" I'm not always as open. Sometimes I just like, "Oh, I make horror movies." And because I was at physical therapy the other day, and they found out I made movies, and I'm like, oh, I make horror movies, because I didn't necessarily trust the audience I was with and everything like that, to be either receptive or to listen or be interested in any of the aspects, the queer, the fat positive, or the sex positive aspect. So long-winded question, set up to the question of how open are you with people about your work as the Brisket, outside of the queer community? Are you open with what you do?
I definitely always consider my audience. I Two kind of rules that I operate by that have served me very, very well. Rule number one is don't ruin the fun for everybody else, because sometimes, a situation might seem very inviting, but it's not. That person is here for a total different reason. And then the other thing is don't get arrested. It's just be mindful of your surroundings. And when you're somebody who like me, who sex worker, makes porn, you're always kind of trying to push the envelope. You're trying to bring those fantasies to reality.
Mm.
having that in the back, both the back and front of my mind, has really helped to guide me a lot. So I'm always applying those situations. And so that rule number one, don't ruin the fun for everybody else. Sometimes you're getting your hair cut in a very vanilla place, and you mention, oh, I'm getting my hair cut because I'm going to a photo shoot. Oh, tell me about it. I want to know all about that kind of stuff. And so I try to always be very, very mindful. I am most open by being like, oh well, I'm gay, and it's something that I'm doing within the gay community or the queer community. That's
Okay.
usually my safe zone to go with if I'm speaking to somebody who's kind of a normie, kind of I don't know how this is going to be received. That is the type of thing where I'm like, I feel like I can plant my flag here and say that with confidence, and even if the conversation turns cold, I can live with that. If I begin to feel like, maybe I am in an environment and I kind of feel it out a little bit more, like, oh, I think this, I can then follow up with, I'm a content creator online. Oh, on Etsy, on I'm like, well, eventually, but and I can start to ferret out those particular details until I feel confident where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to put this out there. Even if it goes south, that's totally fine. I take a gamble with it, but I do try to ride the throttle a little bit with how much information I give out. If I know that the person is in any way tangentially queer at all, I am much more upfront with it. But that is also largely because I do know that, as somebody who is kinky, as somebody who does what I do, there is resistance even within the queer community.
For
There are
sure.
I mean, every year we all know what the discourse is and how it goes about, like, how pride should operate.
June. I was just thinking that June's coming up. We're going to be having that. So
Yep, and I mean, and
especially this year, it's going to be that way.
tell me about it. And also, I mean, even here in Atlanta, this beautiful, wonderful, very, very gay city that I'm so fortunate to be able to live in. I do know that so many people and businesses within the community that are straight up gay and queer businesses are they're being incredibly mindful. And I think that's very wise. But at the same time, I know that there will be decisions that certain people or groups or organizations will make, and just having to trust, I may not understand it, but this is just the best decision that they are going to have to make themselves. I try to be as open and honest as I can. I'm really not necessarily concerned about offending somebody else. I'm more, if anything, just concerned about, is this something I want to deal with right now? But I'm always
Fair.
working on trying to, a passion project of mine. I'm going to keep it very, very brief, just because I feel like even saying the words is uh, kind of inflammatory. Like, again, I grew up very sheltered, very, very closeted for a very long time. Most of my life background is in a very conservative religious environment, where if a child is caught looking at pornography or experimenting sexually with themselves, experimenting with their gender identity, their gender expression, it can carry a huge consequence for them. They can pay a very high price for that. But one of the things that I would like to do in the very near future, and just continue to work at and develop, is basically advocacy and education programs, or something, some kind of message, whether it's a Substack or a series of essays or whatever it is, that's basically parents in pornography. Every parent out there, I am a parent, every of now, thankfully, adult grown children, but every parent out there thinks to themselves, my kid's never going to come in contact with porn. My kid is going to have safe, reasonable, healthy sexual experiences. A lot of people are like, my kid's not going to have to deal with this until they're married, till they're out of the house, and thus I'm not going to have to deal with it as a parent. And parents and society and culture, we insist we are going to put on these blinders, and that is going to keep our children safe. And the fact of the matter is that our kids have just as much exposure to everything I have exposure to thanks to our phones, thanks to the internet, thanks to social media, it's out there, and turning a blind eye to it, putting our heads in the sand, that's not going to serve our children. And that's not going to create healthy experiences for anybody, child or adult. And so it's a dream of mine that may not come to fruition till years down the road. But normalizing this to the sense of, we're going to take it out of the shadows, we're going to have an honest perspective on it, and we're going to be able to say, that's not for me, I don't want that for my kid, I don't want that for my family or for myself, but I know that it's a real thing. And instead of shaming my child when I see what their search history is, being able to have a healthy conversation, being able to, not only their child, but I mean, I come from such a background too, that as a full-on adult, one spouse sees the other spouse's search history, that alone is enough to completely destroy a marriage and tear a family apart. No actual physical infidelity, no stepping out, no secret life, just, I saw what you were looking at online, and that is enough to name palm the whole thing. And
Mm.
so much pain because of it. And so, in regards to just circling back to how open I am with it, I'm always trying to push myself to be as open as I can within reason, not ruin the fun for everybody else. Sometimes somebody just wants to cut this man's hair and get him out of my chair, get him on, to the next client and stuff. They don't need the TED talk on the virtues of pornography from me and things like that. But I do want to get to the point where I'm like, my production company happens to be called Prime Beef Productions. And so getting it to where I can frame it to where, like, oh, I run Prime Beef Productions. We create content and multimedia art for adults and for people to be able. I want to create a safe space so that way, when you do have that straight couple that would like to do those boudoir shots, that would like to do those intimate shots, that would like to have that sexy adult experience that's just for them to share, I could be an outlet for them. I could provide that as a service for them. And again, that's a dream that's further down the road. But creating an environment where those things are normalized, where it's like, hey, we all are sexual beings to some degree or another. We all inhabit bodies that we love and don't love for different reasons, but those are commonalities that bring us all together. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that I can find ways to be able to package that so that it's as appropriate as possible for as wide of an audience as possible.
I love that, and I think that's very, very, very important for people to realize and remember is that we all have a sexuality, even if that sexuality is asexuality, there's still a
Sexuality.
sexuality. And I that's I've talked about this all the time in interviews and things, but that's one of my largest issues with how a lot of queer people are portrayed in media is that queer people are portrayed in media as not having a sexuality. They're sexless, and it makes queer people acceptable if they don't have a sexuality,
Hmm.
which I know is a weird thing to say, sort of like that. But and I'm not sure people can wrap their heads exactly what I'm trying to say, or if I'm even making sense with it. But the idea
Oh, no,
that
absolutely.
like a queer person is a safe queer person is one that does not express themselves sexually.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, all people have a sexuality, regardless of what kind of that sexuality is,
Mhm.
and it's something that I think I know growing up, it was very shameful to even think or talk about these things, and certainly at
Yeah.
home it was always very bad to have those sort of like conversations, and uh, it's unfortunate really that is the way that it is these days.
I think that we have been for such a long time, and I I really feel like we're not on the precipice. We are over the edge into an era right now where um, even as straight people who might identify as kinky, straight people that are swingers and parts of the members of the lifestyle, straight cis people that are nudists and naturalists, anybody that is outside of that very cookie cutter, white bread, vanilla, love them, but Norman Rockwell image, of Americana, that incredibly safe, sterilized, packaged, what we think of when we think of like the least offensive, but also the most marginalizing mental images within society. We are not on the doorstep of that. We are fully inside, and um, I definitely, I would love to do more. I would love to be, the person that's in the vanguard, that's waving the flag, that's carrying the sword and shield and doing different things. But um, I think we all have an opportunity to do the doable thing that was within our sphere of influence.
And
And
that's what I think you're doing, though, and I think that's what I'm trying to do as well. I think it's important to do exactly what you just said. Do the doable thing within our sphere of influence, and that's why I made the contract, because I wanted to make something that was super queer, super expressive of the community, and not be afraid to have those aspects in it and do things that I've never done in a movie before.
yeah,
And this was all before everything happened in November to now. I was already planning to make this movie, and but I felt even more compelled to do it because of that. And
yeah,
you're putting out films and content and multimedia that um, show that it's important and wonderful to express yourself, regardless of age or body type or how late it took you to figure out who your identity and everything. I think it's all really beautiful. What we're trying to do, what you're doing, what I'm trying to do. It's really really special stuff. And I also just realized that we have 2 minutes left. Because wow, that hour flew by. Um, I'm so grateful that you were here to talk about all this, and I can't believe that we'll have to have you back just to talk more, because I feel like there's such a large topic to go on and everything here.
thank you. This has been a wonderful, wonderful treat for me, and I thank you so much. I'm deeply honored.
Oh, my pleasure. Everybody, if you want to follow the Brisket on his public socials, you can go to Instagram and you can follow him at prime_brisket, or on Blue Sky at thebrisket.bsky.social. Uh, Also, I'm sure that there are links to other sites you can follow him on.
Yes, you'll find a link tree in any of my profiles there, that you'll be able to find me in other places.
So if you're curious or want to pursue or learn more, they're there for you to do that. I am sure it would be wonderful to support the Brisket as well in the art that he's creating and all. Um, I am so excited to hear more about what you're doing, and also to work with you more on the things that we're trying to work on together, because I think that that will be we actually have to touch base, I think, about that, because
We do.
that
We
is
do.
I know that you said you had some dates you wanted to start looking at with me. So
That's
we'll
right.
have to do that. So
Yes.
things. So everyone, I might be making my way down to Atlanta sometime in the next couple months. You never know.
We will be shouting that out once we get that locked in. So
So
yes, we're gonna have a lot of
I'm
fun.
excited. I'm very excited. I'm sorry. I just speaking of, I didn't even think about this. I forgot to talk about this. One of the big news pieces that literally the day after filming wrapped, we discovered that we were accepted to the Wicked Queer Film Festival in Brooklyn and in Boston for the Brooklyn Butcher. So
All
the
right.
Brooklyn Butcher will be screening in Boston in April. Everybody, so if you are from Boston or around Boston and you want to see the Brooklyn Butcher, the full feature film, and meet me, or at least be in the audience with me, I will tell you more about that as we learn the dates that we'll be there. But we will be having an in-person screening of the full feature film of the Brooklyn Butcher in Boston in April. So
Congratulations.
that's really exciting. I didn't even I can't believe I completely forgot about that in the catch up with everybody. But talking to you about Atlanta made me remember that. So Because all this travel and everything. And I guess I should also mention, if you haven't seen it yet, we'll also be in Vegas at Bigger Vegas in July with both The Brooklyn Butcher and A Taste of Youth. So if you're interested in screening either of those movies and you're going to be in Vegas at Bigger Vegas, well, guess who's part of the entertainment? Um, are you going to Bigger Vegas this year?
I am, as of right now, I haven't been able to confirm and commit to it, but I am leaving a window of time open. And if I can make it out, anybody that's watching, if you have not been to Bigger Vegas or to an event like that, I highly recommend it. They run a wonderful, wonderful event. So many options, very accommodative to so many different types of people. Josh will be there. So if
I've
I'm
never
there, I'll
been to
definitely
Bigger
be.
Vegas. I've never been to actually. I've never really been to a Bear or Chubb event at all. So this will be my first time doing
This
something like
is a
that.
great one to start. It's big, but it is so well run that even if it's your first one, you're going to be in great hands and great company. It's a very good one.
I look forward to it. I can't wait to be there. But more importantly, I look forward to having you back on the show very soon because
Anytime.
I had such a fun time with you tonight.
Thank you.
Um, Everybody else, I will be back next week on Monday. I'm not sure how much longer season 4 will run of the Psychic Power Hour. I'm gonna keep going as long as people keep tuning in, I think. But probably by April, end of May, we'll see if I have to take a hiatus because of other projects that are coming up. There's some exciting things that we are starting to work on because of course, I just finished the movie, but that doesn't mean that I'm finished with other projects that are coming up because I don't like to slow down. And neither does the brisket because you are always working. You're always pumping something
Gotta
out.
keep those bodies in motion.
Exactly. That's the most important thing. But anyway, have a wonderful Monday night, everybody. Remember, follow the brisket at prime_brisket on Instagram or the brisket.bsky.social on Blue Sky, and follow him in all the other places that he has link trees to as well. And everyone, have a lovely evening, and I will be seeing you all very soon. Uh, have a happy Monday. I think there's nothing special coming up this week, I don't think, but either way, we'll remember it next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Goodbye.
night, everyone. Thank you.
And that's the tea.